In August 1978, an ore deposit was discovered in the upper reaches of the Abakan River. Geologists from a helicopter saw a vegetable garden with potatoes. Where is he from in desolate places? The nearest village on the river is 250 kilometers away. Having landed, they found people who lived in pre-Petrine times interspersed with the Stone Age. With a splinter without salt bread. In 1982, Komsomolskaya Pravda journalist Vasily Peskov visited the Hermits. The country was read by the Lykov Rabbinate. But there was a blank spot in the Taiga impasse. Peskov traced the 300-year-old path of the Old Believer family, the Volga region, Altai, Siberia. Why did the family live in the wilds of Abakan all alone? Agafya's father Karp Osipovich Lykov spoke of those years dully, indistinctly, with apprehension, wrote Peskov. He made it clear it was not without blood. Nicholas I abolished the persecution of old believers. But a revolution broke out, then collectivization. Many old believers remained in the village and created an agricultural cartel. And the Lykov brothers, Stepan, Karp and Evdokim, together with their father and 3 more families, moved to the upper reaches of the Abakan. They cut down 5 walled huts, hoping to survive the satanic times in the wilderness. Their village was called in the documents, Verkhnyaya Kurhakskaya Zamka. The author of the book, Lykovs, Tigray Dalkit restored those dramatic events. His father, biologist Georgy Dalkit, was in charge of the scientific department of the Altai Nature Reserve. In 1930, by a decree of the Council of People's Commissars of the Rusfers, the Altai State Reserve was created. The hitch was on its territory. The authorities announced to the old believers that they were not allowed to live here. Hunting and fishing were prohibited in the reserve. Projects scattered in all directions. Only Evdokim Lykov was allowed to stay. Ksenia's wife was expecting a child. In addition, he agreed to work in the conservation of the reserve. But there was an anonymous denunciation. They say, Lykov is a poacher, he will kill all the animals. Officers Rusakov and Klishchanov were sent to check the signal. The brothers were digging potatoes. Karp came to help Evdokim, and did not immediately notice the armed men. Black riding breeches and tunics, black pointed helmets on their heads. This form was introduced in the reserve recently. The Lykovs did not know about it. The brothers rushed to the hut. Rusakov raised his rifle. Don't shoot, they don't seem to understand who we are, shouted Klishchanov. But he shot Evdokim in the back. The wound was fatal. To shield themselves, the guards drew up a protocol, accusing the Lykovs of armed resistance. Karp refused to sign the false paper. The murder was reported to the area. The investigation was carried out superficially, no one was tried. Irritarties. Shot means guilty. In 1937, the NKVD raided the Lykovs. They asked in detail about the murder of Evdokim. It was decided to look into this story again. Karp was alert. The murderers of a brother can slander him during the investigation. They have more faith. That is why he took his family to the desert, the upper reaches of the Bolshoi Abakan. Mountains, taiga, hundreds of kilometers without shelter and no roads. Here in August 1940, the observers of the reserve met him. They offered a job as a guard at the cordon. A large semi-detached house, a bathhouse, barns, government food. They promised to bring a cow and sheep. They said that their brother's killers had already been punished. It was a lie. The head of the science department of the Dalkif Reserve, the father of the author of the book, also participated in the negotiations. Karp's wife really wanted to move to the cordon, closer to the people. Children are growing. But Karp was categorically against it. Let us perish. How many people have been ruined, for what? Evdokim was killed and we will be harassed. And he moved even further into the taiga. Fear of sharing the tragic fate of a brother shot before his eyes, the same blood. Which he later hinted at to Vasily Peskov. They drove the runner. Not faith at all. Soon the Great Patriotic War began. There was no time for a Karp in the reserve. However, the NKVD remembered him. By the end of the summer of 1941, the Chekists took control of all taiga settlements, so that deserters do not hide there. A detachment of border guards and security officers went on a raid to search for the fugitives. Old believer Danila Molokov, an old acquaintance of Karp Osipovich, was taken as a guide. From the conversations of the Chekists, he understood that the head of the Lykov family could easily be solved in the taiga. Karp noticed the detachment from a distance, and when Molokov fell behind, he called out to him. Danila said that a war had begun with the German. The NKVD were looking for deserters. Karp Osipovich urgently took his family into the impenetrable jungle of the upper reaches of the Abakan, the same taiga dead end where the hermit Agafya still lives. In 1946, a detachment of military surveyors stumbled upon a refuge. It was put on the cards with the marks aimed to Lykov. Karp and son Savin led a detachment of cartographers across the pass. But, returning, the cautious Lykov urgently moved higher into the mountains, to the alternate airfield, where for 2 years there was a covered log house in case of sudden relocation. Peskov described the story of the visit of cartographers in the taiga dead end. But Vasily Mikhailovich did not know the continuation of this story. The cartographers, of course, reported to the authorities about the meeting with the hermits. They told about their extreme poverty, their 3 children. Agafya was just born. The head of the Altai Nature Reserve was summoned to the regional party committee and made a suggestion: old believers are hiding from him, breaking the laws. The director proposed to relocate the Lykovs to the Abakan cordon, register Karp as a security guard, help the family. But the bureau of the regional committee decided to send the NKVD to the old believers. In winter, the detachment went to the upper reaches of the Abakan. The Chekists hoped that the Lykovs would not run away until spring. They hoped to catch them by surprise. But the hut was empty. In the summer of 1947, the NKVD horse detachment made another secret raid over the Abakan area. It turned out that all the old believers who fled to the taiga from collectivization in the 30s sooner or later returned to the people. And nobody heard about the Lykovs. As if disappeared. It was clear that if we had found the Lykovs, the head of the family would have been in trouble, writes Dalpat, who was the conductor of the NKVD detachment. Lykov would have shared the fate of those who in those days dared to live differently. As it should have been. I mean that if he left the taiga, he would have been arrested and brought to trial. Gradually, they began to forget about the Lykovs in the reserve. And the Chekists also have other concerns. And so no one would have found out about the Lykovs, if not for the geologists on the helicopter. I also want to add a few words from myself. Studying the stories of Peskov and Dalkit, there are a lot of contradictions and suppression. One feels that both of them were subjected to harsh Soviet censorship. None of them writes the truth about the death of the family of Evim Lykov. And this is very strange. In addition, studying the biography of Tigray Dalkit, who, in parallel with Peskov, described the history of the Lykov family, we see that the writer worked as an employee of the reserve and in his narration in every possible way praises the leadership reserve of those years. That is, people who sent 2 murderers to Evim Lykov, and then covered up their actions. Also, we see that Tigray Dalkit himself accompanied the NKVD workers who were looking for the Lykov family for repression. And Dalkit be trusted after that. Did he write the whole truth? You cannot definitely believe. It is also impossible to believe the story of Peskov, Taiga Deadlock, which was edited by party censors. A big request to the viewers of our channel to write at least some information in the comments. About the death of Agafia Lykova, Evdokim's wife, about the death of their children and about the death of the grandmother of these children. This whole family lived in a hut on the Cairo River. What happened to them? And why did an article appear in the local Altai newspaper in those years that Karp Lykov himself killed his brother? Then only Peskov refuted this slander. Please share this video on your social networks, using the buttons under the video and subscribe to the channel. I ask you to go and watch other videos about Agafya Lykova, which you can see now on the screen in the end screensavers. There are a lot of rare and interesting facts about the Hermit. Thank you all for watching.